So this is the baby hive.
This is the baby hive. 3 weeks ago, when my videographer was having a girls' night out in New York for a bachelorette party, I was mowing the lawn, and my next door neighbor came over and said, "Rich, there's a big pile of bees on my screen." And I went over there, and there was a little bitty swarm, the kind of swarm that would never make it on its own. But I went over and vacuumed it up with my little portable vac, and brought it over here. Originally I was going to put it in a 5-frame nuke, but when I saw how small it really was, I put it in a 3-frame nuke.
And what we're seeing now is?
Well, hang on a second. I gave it one frame down the middle that had drawn comb on it, and it was only about half of a frame. I don't want this hive, I don't need this hive, but I figured I got this hive, so let it make some draw some comb for me, because swarms want to draw comb. So even though this only had one paddle of comb about that big, I put it in the middle, put 2 empty frames either side. This is the nuke, the mini nukes that I talked about, where I can feed them from the back, which you can see over here. You're going up my leg, that's not a good idea. Okay, so here's the feeder part over here, okay. And they have a robbing screen on the front built in, and they started building. I keep a little pollen patty in here. I'm going to show you all that tomorrow morning when they're not in this orientation flight.
But that's what we're looking at right now, is an orientation flight. The fascinating part is we're looking at the tail end of an orientation flight for the first hatching of the first brood. Now, this is something that normally wouldn't take place for a couple of weeks, but since the bees that were part of that swarm are all getting near the end of their life cycle, and the number of bees in this hive has been dropping steadily over the course of this past week, it is particularly good to see that some of them were recruited and kicked out the front door to orientate and start maybe doing some foraging and such for this group. Now, as I say, they won't die because they have a constant supply of sugar water, they have a constant supply of pollen patty in here, but we're not in dearth right now. Everybody else is happy. Between those and them getting these new recruits out into the air, we're going to have a good little hive here, hopefully. I'll tell you more about this story tomorrow morning. I don't want to disrupt them, but tomorrow I will take the top off. I'll show you the frames and all this sort of thing and explain the rest of this. So for now, this is Rich. This is Beekeeping with Rich. See you on the flip side in the morning. Take care. All right, everybody. We're back again. So yesterday afternoon, I came out here to the bee yard to do something with hive number 2, and I turned around and there was an orientation flight going on here. Now, so if you'll refer back to the footage you saw a few seconds ago, and look how quiet things are now compared to then. It was very exciting because here's where the numbers lay. Saturday, July the 16th, was the day I was mowing the lawn. The next door neighbor came and said there's a swarm of bees on my screen. I went, vacuumed them up, put them in here. So remember the numbers. Today is August the 8th. So what we have here is 21 days plus 5. 21 days, of course, being the important number. I'll put that down there so it's not going to get smoked there. Because 21 days, remember 3 days is an egg, 6 days as a larvae, and then 12 days as a pupae till they come out. So, little tiny swarm, didn't know whether it had a virgin queen or not. Captured them, I was going to put them in a 5-frame nuke, but saw how small it was and ended up putting them in a 3-frame nuke. Gave them one piece of comb down the middle. I know, I've just got to recap. And, put them in here to do that. One thing I do want to mention, I didn't mention yesterday, was kind of wondering why they just landed in the middle of her screen. Well, when I got up on the ladder to vacuum the bees up,
I was met with an overwhelming smell of lemongrass. And I said, "Are you using lemongrass in here?" And she says, "Yeah, I have a diffuser." Somebody had told her that lemongrass was better than citronella for mosquito repelling. And so they had a diffuser going in there with lemongrass. And I mean, it was an overwhelming smell of lemongrass. I told her she's going to attract every bee in the neighborhood. But at any rate, again, remember the numbers. 21 days minus up to 2 days for our Africanized bees. We have a faster life cycle down here. So at the 7-day mark, 1 week after I put them in, I did lift the lid and peek, and there was capped brood, which I don't even quite understand how there could be capped brood in 7 days, because think about it, 3 plus 6 is 9. Again, that shows you that our Africanized bees speed up their life cycle somewhat. Have not been back inside there since, except once a week I've been lifting the lid, checking a pollen patty, replacing it. First when small hive beetles got into it, but they're taking the patty, they're taking the sugar water in the back, and at the rate this sugar water is going down now compared to the way it's been going for the last week, obviously we have a bigger population in here to take it right now. Open it and let's get going. All right. Yep. Hello, ladies. The queen is not on the cover. Oh, and I should mention, these bees were very feisty. The moment they got resources, they became rather defensive. Nobody happens to be eating the patty at the moment, at least from this side. Yep.
Is that a commercial patty?
No, it's homemade. Well, no, it's just the Ultra Bee plus some ground up pollen and some sugar water mixed together to make a paste. It's basically just peanut butter for bees. So, take a look over here.
What are we looking at?
Well, what you're looking at is this was a frame that had half a frame of comb on it. And what they've done is they built a little bit of comb here and a little bit of comb here.
I can't see from this angle. You've got to pull it up.
All right, we'll get started on doing that. But this swarm is so small.
Yeah, they got itty bitty bit of comb.
Itty bitty bit of comb, and they haven't gotten out in here yet. To put these in a 5-frame box, they just would have been lost in there. But I don't see my queen on this side.
It's getting close.
I see some very small larvae in the bottom. Down over here, I see a bit of nectar there. You can see this was all filled with larvae before, and they've hatched out. And let's get over this side. Oh, we're going to take care of you in a hurry. Let's see, do we see a queen? Put this over here. Well, hang on just a second. Ladies, obviously these girls aren't reading the manual the way they should be. Boy, you are persistent.
Stick it on the wire or something.
Well, that's what I want to do, but I don't want to mash a bee. Alrighty. Looks like this one could actually kind of go that way a little bit. Alrighty. So, let's see.
What do we want?
All right. Let's get this bit of comb off the side here. Any of you as will go. Why is there always one? There we go. All right. Okay. See, they've put capped honey on the top. We've got open brood. This was a very solid patch of brood at 7 days. So they've hatched out. She's laid back in here. There's some larvae. They don't have quite as much bee milk around them as I would like. They're a little on the dry side. If you'll excuse me, dear, I'm going to look for the queen over here. Nope, I don't see her either. Well, you guys are just involved with this. Bit of cat brood left, but a lot of larvae being put back in where they hatched out. On this side, I'm not seeing the queen. Zip. I'm going to slip back down, dear.
No, she's not popping out at me.
Nope, me neither. Come on, you. There we go. Let me get this little bit of burr comb off of here.
You see it on the side of you?
Well, that's what I'm trying to peek for here.
We do have queen sign.
Yep.
Don't just say yep, they can't hear me.
My wife was just observing that we have queen sign. We just haven't seen the queen. I'm looking on the walls here to see if I spot her.
So are you putting them back in the 3 frame, or are they ready for a 5?
They are by no means ready for a 5 frame. I mean, look at this.
Yeah, so they're going back in the 3.
They built this. Now my hope is that now what we had before were older nurse bees and worker bees that were maybe a little bit past the best age for drawing wax. And so they did what they had to. They got some wax drawn, but they did not draw as much as I would have hoped they would. But hopefully now that we have some young nurse bees in here that are much more of the, going to be much more of the age for, you know, aggressively making wax, that they're going to get this all going the way it should be going. Well, that's it. Little baby swarm that had no chance on their own at this age. Didn't see any hive beetles today, which is good. There was a number of them in here, but I think most of the hive beetles had gotten interested in the pollen patty and were up in it, and the bees had them corralled in it. So I took the other pollen patty out and got rid of the beetles, and doesn't look like there was any more in there, so that's good.
And it looks like all the bees that came out are all going back in.
Yep. Yep. So that's it. The tale of a little baby swarm, the sort that there's a reason they say that a swarm in May is worth a cart of hay, but a swarm in July ain't worth a fly, because a swarm in July doesn't have a chance of making it on its own.
But look at all the pollen
They're bringing in plenty of pollen, so that's why they're not really going after the pollen patty too much right now. That's because there's a very large tree in my side yard that produces literally millions of flowers. You don't really even see them, they're so tiny, and it's in bloom right now, and it's putting out plenty of pollen. I was up on the roof doing some trimming on it a couple of days ago, and the bees were all over it. So they don't really need this pollen patty right now, but we were in a bit of a pollen dearth 10 days ago, and so that's when I gave them a patty, which they were really chomping down on at that point.
Okay, what are your plans for this hive?
Well, my plans for this hive is to at least try to build it up into 3 full frames and then give it away as fast as possible. What this did do was prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that this was a good design, putting the wider bottom board on here and attaching a back sugar feeder on here so I could give them sugar water and monitor it real well, and at the same time not disturb or disrupt them at all in there. The game on this one is figuring out where this came from more than anything else, because this is directly in line with a small swarm I took off in the spring on the house right behind it. And the neighbor had watched this swarm come from way over that way somewhere and fly to that location. It obviously did not come from my hives. It came from way to the north of us and came in that direction. Now, is this another swarm from that same little colony? Because obviously this was a mated queen that came here, and you can see how tiny that swarm was. It couldn't have come from one of these boxes, because these boxes are full of bees. But at the same time, for the last 3 weeks, this second box over here has been as active as the other two, and about 4 or 5 days ago, the activity at the front entrance went down significantly. You can see it's down significantly right now. Still what most people would call a healthy hive, but by the standards that we use down here, not as active as the others. So I'm going to dig into this hive a little bit later this morning and see where I stand in there. And so this was just the story of a little tiny baby hive. So this is Rich. This has been Beekeeping with Rich. Hey, like and subscribe.